No way, Paul!
Well, hello, folks. Venomous here. We've got a lot to get through, so I'm going to make these quick. Gasoline prices under the Green New Deal would reach $13 per gallon. This was dated August 2nd, 2019. The Institute for Energy Research. Many of the Democrats running for president in 2020 support the Green New Deal that was introduced by Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York and Senator Markey of Massachusetts. The Green New Deal, however, would require a $10 tax increase on a single gallon of gas, according to a study by the CO2 Coalition. Key to the Green New Deal is the goal of eliminating gasoline-powered vehicles in favor of electric vehicles. But in order to make electric cars desirable to consumers, gasoline prices would have to increase to $13 per gallon. Such a tax would undoubtedly harm consumers and the U.S. economy. The CO2 Coalition study entitled The Social Cost of Carbon and Carbon Taxes examines the social cost of carbon, SCC, which is an estimate of the discounted future costs to the world economy due to atmospheric warming caused by metric ton of carbon dioxide emissions, and the level of carbon taxes needed to encourage a major change in technology. To make decisions in the energy sector, the Obama administration established its own social cost of carbon. The Obama administration's decision to look at costs to the world economy was contrary to the official U.S. policy at the time because those estimates were supposed to be made only on the basis of the U.S. economy. This deviation allowed a much higher predicted cost of carbon than if they had followed protocol. The SCC used by the Obama administration was $42 per metric ton, while the SCC used by Trump administration is regulatory rulemaking has been below 10. Carbon dioxide is a benign gas and is the byproduct of the conversion of fossil fuels into energy. There are many natural sources of carbon dioxide, which account for about 96% of annual contributions to the atmosphere. A gasoline-powered car emits about a metric ton of carbon dioxide every 2,500 miles. The SCC is often suggested as a logical starting point for a carbon tax, to encourage the use of alternative sources of energy, such as transitioning from gasoline-powered vehicles to electric vehicles. The CO2 Coalition, as well as others, found that the government's SCC is so sensitive to input assumptions that small and reasonable variations can produce almost any carbon tax. As a result, it is not a suitable tool for guiding public policy, including taxes on energy. The cost of transitioning to electric vehicles. The authors of the study find that a carbon tax of about $1,000 per metric ton of carbon dioxide, or roughly $10 per gallon of gasoline, would be needed for electric cars to compete with conventional ICE vehicles, based on the full cost of ownership and operation of a vehicle. They estimate that it costs about $2,700 more per year to use an electric car instead of a conventional car, which would save about 2,700 kilograms of carbon dioxide. As a result, each metric ton of carbon dioxide not emitted cost about $1,000. $10 carbon tax on gasoline added to today's gasoline price of about $3 per gallon would make gasoline cost about $13 per gallon at the pump. Note that price is 2 to 3 times what the Europeans pay for petroleum-based transportation fuels, which on average total $5 to $6 per gallon for gasoline and $4 to $5 per gallon of diesel. Europeans typically drive somewhat smaller gasoline and diesel-powered cars than Americans. Excuse me. The cost of transitioning electric generation to renewables. The authors estimated the carbon tax needed to replace natural gas generation with wind or solar power assuming that electricity generated from a natural gas costs about 4 cents per kilowatt hour. Adding a $40 tax on carbon dioxide would increase the cost of natural gas generation by about 25%. A carbon tax of $40 per metric ton probably would reduce energy consumption slightly at the margin, but is nowhere near high enough to bring about a significant substitution of renewable fuels. To compete with natural gas for power generation, the authors find that onshore wind turbines would need a tax of around $200 per metric ton, and solar PV power generation would require a tax of over $500 per metric ton. Conclusion, the Green New Deal would cripple the U.S. economy by requiring carbon taxes ranging from $200 to $1,000 per metric ton to spur replacement of current technologies in the transportation and electric generating sector. If the United States were to implement carbon taxes of this nature, Americans would be devastated financially. And given that the United States emits about 15% of the global carbon dioxide emissions, compared to China, which emits 28% of the world total, U.S. reductions would have little impact on global atmospheric concentrations. According to China's commitment to the Paris Climate Agreement, the country will not begin to reduce carbon dioxide emissions until after the year 2030. Most Americans would find $13 per gallon gasoline unacceptable. The impacts on households and businesses of all kinds would be enormous. A quadrupling of gasoline prices would plunge the U.S. economy into a deep recession. Policymakers should understand the consequences of their proposals. So, this was 2019, folks, long before any war situation. But yeah, this is the people who did the study. It's a CO2 coalition. They're against the whole carbon tax system. So they're not really not pushing for that at all. They're pushing against it. And here's the PDF file of what they were talking about, what I was reading. But yeah, what are the gas prices right now? Today's AAA national average in America is $4.71 per gallon of gasoline. California, it's $6. So, I mean, just a little below half the amount it would be according to their estimates. And I mean, it's same thing in Canada. We pay here in Newfoundland about $6. We're like California for the price. And the average in Canada is $2 a liter, over $2 a liter. I think we're at $2.22 last time I filled up, which was actually, it had gone down. Yeah. So anyways, I saw this. The most expensive gas in the country cost $6.73 per gallon in, it was like Florida or something. I don't know. Was it California? California. Yeah. My apologies. California, not Florida. Opposite side. And while they're doing that, I should mention that they like to claim that all these prices are going up because of the war, but they even admitted here, Biden says the quiet part about the energy transition out loud. The Michael Scott of presidents here. President Joe Biden took some heat on Monday for saying the quiet part of energy transition out loud at a press conference following a meeting in Japan and with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. The president seemed to frankly admit that high gasoline and diesel prices are just part of the overall plan for the transition to renewables. He just says it out loud, because he's Michael Scott. Anyways, when it comes to the gas prices, we're going through an incredible transition that is taking place that, God willing, when it's over, will be stronger and the world would be stronger and less reliant on fossil fuel. Resilient, that's their word. Reliant on fossil fuels when this is over. Biden said, It was a mistake since, although running prices for fossil fuel generated energy higher has always been part of the plan for Biden's Green New Deal energy policies, admitting it out loud in public was not supposed to be part of the messaging. The president's latest gaffe comes as his polling numbers continue to not plummet, they just continue to plumb previously unseen depths. Oh, plumb the depths. I should have read the whole thing. As they proceed in their inverse relationship to the ever-rising price for gasoline at the pump. After admitting that high energy costs are an integral part of making the transition work, Mr. Biden then seemed to realize his rhetorical mistake, insisting that his administration's policies have not made the problem of rising prices worse. Thus, he was back on his message. Yeah, so it's admitted, folks. There is no argument that this is not part of the Green New Deal, the Build Back Better plan. Let's look, your magnanimous governments here in Canada. Government expanding electric vehicle rebate program to include trucks, vans, and SUVs. The government expanding its electric vehicle rebate program is to include larger vroom vehicles. The program, launched in 2019, offers a $5,000 rebate for fully electric vehicles and $2,500 for hybrids. Starting next week, the rebate will be extended to cars with a base model price below $5,500 and to SUVs, pickup trucks, and minivans with a base model price below $60,000. Consumers who buy those vehicles could choose higher trims or add options worth up to $10,000 and still qualify for the rebate. That means a car with a base model price of $5,500 with a trim price of $6,500 would still qualify, while a car with, you get it. Oh, a car with 60 would not be eligible. There you go. Blah, blah, blah. For example, a Tesla Model 3 with a base price of $61,000 would be excluded from the program, while the premium trim for Mustang Mach-E, whatever, price slightly higher at $61 would qualify. 61,895 would qualify. Previous rebate was available only to cars priced under $5,500. Yay! We get to buy our electric vehicles. They could shut us all down at once. I mean, realistically, they can do that with your cars now because they have electric components and they're letting use the chip shortage. And you can't get a new vehicle anymore. So there you go. They're doing the same thing with rebates in the U.S. I'm not going to play this video because it's boring. But, I mean, this is a vehicle-based one, U.S.-based one, where they're talking about new rebates for the electric cars. Do the same thing as states. Here in Canada again, Canadians have been clear about what they want: clean air, good jobs, and a healthy environment, and a strong economy. That's why the government of Canada is making it easier and more affordable for Canadians across the country to drive zero-emission vehicles, while helping the auto sector to build them right here in Canada. They're not zero emission because the electricity that they get to power them are from coal-burning plants. They don't tell you that part. But no, we're going to install more solar panels. More solar panels. And some windmills. We got to get some windmills up there too. Don't worry, Canadians. We got you covered. They do the same thing in the UK. Government funding targeted at more affordable zero-emission vehicles as market changes ahead to shift towards an electric future. That was December 2021. Also before the war, correct? If I'm not mistaken. When did that start? Like 2 months ago or something? Anyways, remember this? The world in 2019? Well, what do we have here? We've got Putin, China. Sorry, stereotype of a panda, but you know it means China. You got Trump, but you got the Four Horsemen. But what else is here underneath? A little electric vehicle, people. Of course, we all know that it had nothing to do with 2019. It was from then on, after 2019. These are the things that were going to hit you pretty hard. There's the QR codes, and I've dissected this many times. Facial recognition. Yada, yada, yada. Let's move on again. I want to play this clip for you real quick.
Through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned. We don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on. We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned. We don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on. We're developing.
The carbon tracker. Don't act like you didn't know that was coming. But anyways, let's get back. As climate change policy takes shape, will the U.S. ever put a price on carbon? Yes, they will. These people, I'm not even going to read the article, I'm just going to get to the part that they talk about. They're talking about the carbon tax proposed as part of the Build Back Better plan would impose a $20 fee per metric ton of carbon. Would that be on, is that suggesting that at the pump it would be $23 per gallon, for example? I don't know, they could go as high as they want, people. It doesn't matter. They want to get you off of the carbon, off of the gasoline, the fossil fuels. U.S. government to end gas-powered vehicles purchases by 2035 under Biden order. There you go. So, they have to transition most of you off of there so that by the time they ban it, there's only a few resistors, They can't have you all banned at once, because then people might wake up and refuse to go along with this. But if they can whittle it down, it makes it much easier to, once they ban something, people just go along with it because they already have their electric vehicles and they're like, oh, it's fine. What else do I have here? Russia crisis. Now we're going to talk about the war, how the war affects this whole thing. Russia crisis should supercharge climate efforts in Build Back Better 2.0 memo. Progressive Climate Group is looking to thrust Russia's war and its impact on the global energy market to the center of any revived talks on President Joe Biden's Build Back Better plan, lobbying for the inclusion of more than a dozen investments to boost clean energy and reduce U.S. reliance on oil and gas. After killing the original version of the massive climate and social spending package last year, Senator Joe Manchin recently signaled his willingness to come to the table on a pared-down version as long as it specifically focuses on climate change, prescription drug prices, and cutting the federal deficit. The $1.7 trillion reconciliation package that House Democrats passed in November included approximately $555 billion in total climate spending. In a memo shared with HuffPost, and set to be distributed to officials on Capitol Hill in the White House climate advocacy group, Evergreen Action outlined 15 specific climate investments that were part of the House-approved bill that it hopes to see prioritized, in any resurrected version. The group says those provisions would go a long way towards speeding up. Man, I'm seeing the wrong words every time I read. Speeding up the transition to renewable energies and breaking free of a global oil and gas market that is empowering Russian President Vladimir Putin and other bad actors. Oh boy. Thank you, Putin, for bringing back our excuse to build back better. Here's a funny one here. Biden administration urges Putin, don't invade Ukraine, build back better instead. Oh, that's funny. The White House has a solution for Vladimir Putin's territorial ambitions. Don't invade Ukraine, build back better. Come on, guy, build back better instead. And what has become emblematic of the Democrats' insistence on sticking to their talking points, the Biden administration urged the Russian president to build back better. Oh, you have to say it so many times. Stop beating up Ukraine and build back better instead. Speaking to reporters hours after the Biden administration admitted that its own Build Back Better plan won't pass Congress this year, a senior admin official said that polling in Russia shows strong support for policies Biden himself has struggled to pass in the U.S. The Russian people don't need a war with Ukraine. They need their sons coming home, and they don't need sons coming home and buybacks. They don't. Okay. They don't need another foreign venture. What they need is better healthcare, better back build back better roads, schools, economic opportunity, official continued. And that's what the polling is showing in Russia. So we hope that President Putin will take this opportunity for diplomacy and will also listen to the needs of his own people. Russian embassy has not issued a response, and we know that they said, no, we want to crush Russia. Russia aims to make carbon tax system that EU will recognize. They got their own ambitions, right? Vladimir Putin has stepped up efforts to address climate change this year, ordering the government to draw up a strategy and signing a law that created a framework for green projects and carbon trading. He also set 2060 as the deadline for reaching net zero carbon emissions. Don't worry, Putin will build back better. But what about poor little Ukraine, huh? Will Ukraine build back better? Oh, you know it. Ukraine will build back better. Although it is difficult to begin thinking about rebuilding a country still at war, Western powers will need to play a central role in supporting Ukraine's reconstruction, committing to a Marshall Plan that will be the best way to show Russian President Vladimir Putin that his brutal aggression will not be rewarded. Ukraine will be rewarded. After 100 days of intense fighting, it is difficult to begin thinking about rebuilding Ukraine when Russian bombs are still raining down on innocent civilians, but it is precisely during times of crisis and disaster that we must consider what comes next. Above all, leading Western powers need to play a central role in supporting the country's reconstruction. To that end, the European Commission recently proposed establishing a Rebuild Ukraine facility to channel grants and loans to the country. But Ukraine's large financial needs will require the European Union to identify new funding sources, which should include the Russian central bank's frozen foreign exchange reserves, as well as funds previously confiscated from Russian state enterprises and assets seized from sanctioned Russian oligarchs. Reconstruction experts recommended looking at the rebuilding task through the lens of a natural disaster such as an earthquake or a flood. In the initial triage phase of the response, the government needs to stop the bleeding, as Ukraine is doing that. As Ukraine is doing, that means fighting back and ejecting the Russian invaders from this entire country, including the occupied dumbass region in Crimea River. Now, I wanted to look up what the Marshall Plan was, and they had a little linky to click, so I clicked it. Shaping a Marshall Plan for Ukraine. The post-war Marshall Plan provided Europe with the finance not only to rebuild itself, but also to leapfrog a generation technologically. This is important, people. Ukraine's reconstruction offers a similar opportunity, but only if the most relevant features of the Marshall Plan are fully appreciated. Taking up Marshall Plan for Ukraine is a popular sport nowadays. The game starts by tossing out a figure for the cost of restructuring. Why am I so off on my reading? Reconstructing Ukraine from the ravages of the Russian invasion. 250 billion or 500 billion or 1 trillion, depending on assumptions about how much is destroyed, the cost of caring for refugees, and so forth. The overall costs of the post-War II, World War II, that is, Marshall Plan is then compared with the U.S. GDP in 1948, when the program started. This typically leads to the conclusion that the cost of Ukrainian reconstruction relative to the size of the donor countries will be the same ballpark as the Marshall Plan. So, let's think about this, people. This is a very important line here. Leapfrog generation technologically. You know how you build back better? What are you building back better from? Well, something has to first topple to be built back. Hello. Could this not be the test bed for what they're planning for the rest of the world? We have a lot of building back better to do, but first we have to rise from the ashes. The phoenix rising from the ashes. They want to tear it all down first, folks, to build it back up. And that's what we're seeing here. Their talks about Ukraine and building back better. So, let's end this on a little good old-fashioned Plandopolis reminder here of the future that could be before us. In a world of fossil fuels and expensive energy, the only solution is tightly planned and controlled urban transport. Fully sittings approved, Global Food Council, because they gotta take control of your food, and we already know that's in the works. The food crisis.
Hi, I'm so glad you're on time. I'm V. I'm looking forward to showing you around Plandopolis today. My husband works from home. He's a virtual engineer working on one of the city's desalination plants. He controls the robots who do all the important maintenance. I think he
Automation.
plays computer games for a living. You ready to go?
Fill up your calorie card. Look, she's got 780 points. 85 points there. I don't know, what's that gonna get you? Peas and potatoes?
On your smartphone. I registered your visit with Slick Travel Corp the other day, so they've allotted you a journey time to match mine. It makes so much sense, doesn't it?
Auto drive mode.
Switch off brain and go to work.
Switch off brain and go to work.
With this many people around, I'm glad there's a mega computer in charge.
City run by a mega computer. Look up City Brain in China. They already have a couple cities in China that are run by a computer, supposedly. I think it's more of the Wizard of Oz effect with the man behind the curtain, to be honest. But eventually, the computers might be well adapted enough to do this.
We're so lucky. Our kids were allocated a school quite near my practice, so I can drop them off on the way. It saves on our calorie ration. Well, it won't be long until the little darlings get their career announcements.
Wait.
So lucky. Our kids were allocated a school quite near my practice, so I can drop them off on the way.
Kids are allocated to my school quite near to my practice, so I dropped them on the way.
Saves on our calorie ration.
Saves on our calorie ration. So, I mean, her driving determines how much she gets to eat. Think about that.
Darlings get their career announcements. They've been working so hard, so I'm sure they'll get something good.
Designated careers, they don't even have a choice anymore. Or they could just become a carbon scrubber here.
Is anything wrong with fixing carbon scrubbers for a living or anything? Are you hungry? Let's
Food City Corp. That sounds delicious.
Right. What's
Global Food Council.
No,
seasonal produce.
It's not your
better for everyone.
The Global Food Council.
Oh, sorry, I missed an important line.
Right. What's on the menu this
What's
month?
on the menu this month?
No, not meat. It's not your birthday.
Not meat. It's not your birthday, silly.
The Global Food Council.
I've also pointed out that they pretty much said the exact same thing in the Eat Lancet report that they came out with. They said how much meat you would be allowed to have. And it was like 14 grams a day. 14 grams of meat a day. And he was talking about. He even mentioned like a special occasion to have meat, like a birthday or something like it. It was hilarious how similar it was.
Are doing a really good job of keeping food production
Eco-friendly
going.
menus. Pea and potato pie.
We don't get the choice you used to, but we're better off than most.
No meat.
I think it's probably easiest to walk from here. You barely see a car in the city centre nowadays, unless you're rich. Well, the state knows they just aren't practical anymore.
You barely see a car anymore unless you're rich in the central area.
We're all trying to meet our global carbon deal. Electric bikes are so much better for getting around our neighbourhood. And why waste valuable space on car parks when you can use them to grow food? I don't care what you say, Alex. They don't deserve to live in that ghetto. They are completely disconnected.
Now listen up, this is us.
No high-speed transport
Us that live in a city, that is. I don't live in a city, so.
system.
But they might round me up one day, you never know.
No new internet. They miss
No new internet? Oh gee. No mind control. No high-speed transport system? You mean they have to drive?
out on jobs and many essential services too.
No, they lose out on jobs and essential services.
Oh, hi again. What a day. I had to make an emergency visit to the
Cry freedom ghettos, people. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this kind of scenario in their predictive programming, where you have the futuristic city and then you have the people that didn't want to go along with the government control and the zero privacy electric vehicle bullshit, and they always have, they're like a ghetto or a savage reserve like in Brave New World. It's always that scenario.
freedom ghettos. I mean, I miss my sister like mad, but I'm glad they went when they moved to New Amsterdam. They're safe from climate change on the floating city. Oh, that must be her now. It's much easier to meet up with friends virtually now. So many cities have banned cars in central areas.
So much easier to meet up virtually now. So many cities have banned cars in central areas.
Ooh, looks like she's got some juicy gossip.
I mean, they're already doing that. They're slowly closing off the roads in like central areas with the bike lanes. They're just growing those bike lanes, edging you closer and closer to just all bike lanes. They're even starting to, reconstruct how roads function, like how big the roads are. Just keep shrinking them and changing the ways you can drive around. Eventually, there will be no driving in central areas. Look up the 15-minute city plan, or like 15-minute cities, 15-minute communities, or whatever they call them. So that's the end of that one. There was another one I want to show you. There's 4 of them. This is actually my video. It's not even on my channel, because the channel that it was on, I Am Werewolf, is gone. But this person totally used my video because I made it on Kazoa back in 2017, 2018. I don't know. It seems like it was ages ago. It's one of my first videos I made, and it was one of the most popular. One of my most popular videos for views. Not the most popular, but one of them. Anyways, there's 4 scenarios. All of them have parts in them I think that do qualify for the future we might see. There's not one single one that totally captures it all, but they all definitely have similar aspects that do very much depict what we would see in what we see them trying to take us in it. I'm not saying that's definite, because we could have an awakening, maybe, that people would wake up and stand up to this crap. But this is where they want to take us, kind of stuff. This is the 4th scenario, and it's got some interesting stuff in it too.
That was gorgeous. It was such a good idea of yours
V and her husband somewhere in virtual reality.
to come here. It's really taken my mind off things. We should do it more often. Well, I suppose I should get back to work. I'll see you later, darling. Right, where was I? Oh, hi there, I'm V. You've come for a look around, haven't you? Well, I've got a bit more work to do here, but I can show you the sites when it's time to pick up the kids, if you like. It won't take me long to see the patients. We do it all virtually now, you see.
Won't take long to see patients. We do all virtually now.
I can quickly show you the garden as you're here. We share this with our neighbours. It's great, isn't it? We use the household waste from the block to create
Shared living quarters. They use household waste
gas and fertilizer.
to create the gas and fertilizer.
It's dead simple, and it means that we exchange any surplus power for food and
They exchange any surplus power for food and vouchers.
Vouchers and subsidies.
Subsidies.
It comes in really useful with our microgeneration targets too.
Microgeneration targets.
I work here on Thursdays. Well, most of us have scaled back our work hours now.
The scaled back work hour, that's an agenda that I've seen them been pushing for a few years now. I want to shorten the work week.
It makes sense. There's less money to go around, but more time for family and all this kind of stuff.
What family? In the future, you're not going to have kids. Or you're going to be very limited on how many kids you can have. If you can have kids by then. Of course, there is the technology of artificial wombs that we'll see that pushed. Till eventually it'll just be mass human production through the factories. You won't even need people.
Here we go.
Renew a bad. Think about what that means. Renew something that has gone bad. Circular economy, circular food chain kind of thing going on there.
Renew a bad. It's nice, isn't it? Really clean and safe and...
No cars.
Thank goodness we've kissed goodbye to the traffic jams. All the vehicles are controlled by computers now, you see.
AI controlled vehicles, public transportation.
This is the Golden Star service. They're not as fast as the Red Express, but the coffee's better. It's a short hop to the
Integrated transport.
school. Look, I
don't know what's under her thumb. Transport card. There you go. Destination school sector. Destination sector 2 school.
brought this for you. We live just near the...
There, it's divided up in sectors. Probably like 15-minute communities.
the growth boundary, and the school is in the next urban village, but the high-speed rail makes it really manageable. In fact, the journey time is really valuable. I get the shopping done, chat to friends, I can even see some patients. I'm really lucky that my job is still valuable. It's a service, you see.
It's a service, you see.
People are so bored with useless products.
People are bored with useless products. Why do you want to own anything? Every product could be is potentially a service. Freaking Ida Aachen. You'll need to look up who that is to understand what I'm talking about. Here we go with more the Savage Reserve, basically.
Scary, travelling through the non-transition zone.
The non-transition zone.
They were really left behind.
They were really left behind.
Converting to a low-carbon
Not converting to a low-carbon way.
way of life. There's a real resentment there.
Those naughty people.
I'm here already. Hello there. How was school? Wow! How cool is that? The new hydropods imported from Morocco. It puts your dad's electropod to shame, doesn't it? So dinky, aren't they? God, amazing. You can go for a whole week without having to recharge. Come on then, home for dinner. We're seeing your grandparents in Shanghai tonight for a virtual dinner.
Ooh, a virtual dinner. Sounds delicious. Anyway, folks, you get it. I'm gonna end on that note. So yeah, obviously, this whole increase in prices doesn't really have anything to do with the war, but they'll use that as an excuse to boost it up more. It's all been planned, folks. Planned for a long time. You all knew this already, but it's good to see it, you know. To give people a visual of how they've been bullshitted. If you're someone who believes that the war in Ukraine has anything to do with your gas prices, no. It's been part of the Green New Deal agenda, Build Back Better agenda, the 2030 agenda, Agenda 21. That's what it's all about, Agenda 21. It always comes back to Agenda 21. The whole scripted war, the gas prices, the inflation, the food shortages, all of it. You can trace it back to one thing. Big ass agenda. Agenda 21. Okay, I'm going to stop rambling. I thank you all for your time and attention. As always, if you'd like to support the channel, please like and share this video. And if you want to support it further, there's links in the description to do so. And with that said, this is Phenomenus reporting from the Brave New World. And I'll catch y'all next time.
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? No way, punk!